Okay, and welcome back to part 2 of the Tom Petty career review. If you've got this far into the video, then thanks for joining me for part 2. So we started off from 1976, or the early Mudcrutch days, and we went through the first album in 76 up to Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 in 1988. So we're going to kind of pick up from where we left off, and we picked up from Volume 1. Volume 1 did well in the charts, it was successful, and then, Roy sadly passed away, which was a big shock to the Wilburys, and, Tom said in an interview, that Roy had actually spoken into the phone, I think, just about a week before he died, and Roy was just really thrilled that the Wilburys had gone platinum, and he was like, it's great. And so with the Wilburys, around about the time of the Wilburys, Tom Jeff had been recording a solo album for Tom, and they had Mike Campbell on board as well, and they recorded in Mike Campbell's garage studios, but they'd done a bit of work on other studios like Rumbo in Los Angeles and Sunset Sound and those sort of studios. And they were like recording and writing songs pretty much a lot, Tom and Jeff, and they pretty much recorded, I think, every day. As soon as one song was done, they'd write another one. So that's pretty much how it kind of happened. But the Heartbreakers, however, got wind of what was happening quite quickly. Benmont called the roadie guy, Alan Bugs Weedle, and said, when are we starting the new record, or are we starting a new record soon and whatnot? And he's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but Tom and Mike are recording a solo record with Jeff Lynne. And Benmont's like, oh. But Benmont did participate, but he didn't really say much about it, the album. He wasn't really particularly fond of it. And Benmont said that I got sober because of that record, because the Heartbreakers all been a kind of party life, and they'd all kind of given that up, but Benmont was still kind of living it up with a bit of, I think, drinking, and so he eventually just cleaned himself out, sorted himself out. But Harry was like, I don't really like this the song. And he's like, if you don't like it, you don't have to play it. And Tom's like, fine. And so it was a Tom Petty solo album, and it came out in the April of 1989, which is this album, Full Moon Fever, which I know we reviewed on the channel, but we're going to talk about it anyway, because for the benefit of the video. Full Moon Fever was another great album. It was Tom Petty's first solo album, produced by Tom, Mike and Jeff, and this kind of took Tom Petty to another level, as Damn the Torpedoes had done the previous year. Great songs like Free Fall, and even though you've heard that one many times, it's still one you like to go back and hear again, and it's a great song. And you have Won't Back Down, Love is a Long Road, A Face in the Crowd, Running Down the Dream. In fact, the whole first side's great. Feel a Whole Lot Better is great, Year So Bad, The Apartment Song, Alright For Now, and Zombie Zoo. A really great album. And Roy Orbison, of course, featured on Zombie Zoo, and they had appearances from George Harrison as well, I think. I believe so. Yes, he was on an acoustic guitar on Won't Back Down, and they had people like Jim Keltner played drums. Phil Jones was the drummer as well, but he was like their percussionist on like the Hard Promises and I think Long After Dark tours. And the Heartbreakers were all kind of busy in these periods years, 88, 89. They were all appearing on other people's records, The Heartbreakers and Tom were on Roy Orbison's album Mystery Girl. They were also recording with Del Shannon on the Rock On album, and Stan was producing Don Henley. So the Heartbreakers had a lot to do even that period. Even though Tom was making a solo record, the Heartbreakers found work on other artists, so they didn't kind of sit about. And then they went on, but another thing that happened was that MCA didn't want to release the album, and they eventually backed down and did release the album. I think the reason why they didn't want to release it was because because they said they didn't hear a single, but they eventually they backed down and released it. So yeah, great album, Full Moon Fever. I've talked about this one in a bit more detail on the channel, so if you want to see me talk about that in a bit more detail, you can go back and look at it. And then when they went on tour for Full Moon Fever in the summer of 1989, all the Heartbreakers were on it. Even though it had been a Tom Petty solo album, the Heartbreakers did play on the accompanying tour. But this was the start of a widening between Tom and drummer Stan Lynch. Now, Stan had always had a fiery, I had two personalities to Stan Lynch. You know, one minute he could be like, Tom said, like, one minute he could be sweet, friendly, and everybody really liked him, and the next minute he's a big problem you want to avoid. And he definitely was like outspoken when it came to not agreeing with Tom in a lot of ways. And he didn't really like having to play these songs on the tour because he had no part in creating them. But if Stan still wanted to be in the Heartbreakers, then he had to play those songs. And after the tour was complete in 1990, Tom and the Wilburys went back to do another record, which was this, the Traveling Wilburys Volume 3. And this album's kind of more Bob Dylan influenced and orientated, but still a good album. I think there's more vocal performances from Bob than there was on the other Wilburys. There was never a Volume 2, in case somebody wonders, did you skip an album? No, I didn't. That was the two Wilburys albums, Volume 3. I think it was George, had said, oh, we'll confuse all the bootleggers and just do Volume 3. So that was what they did. Just did Volume 3. Not a bad album, but I know it's not a favourite, and it's okay. But one of the nice things to do about this album is it's dedicated to the memory of Roy, because Roy passed away, as we said, and given that he was a special person within the Wilburys, this album was dedicated to him, which was quite nice. I do quite like the album. The Wilburys Volume 1, I never got to read out what I liked. I liked Handle with Care, Last Night, Not Alone Anymore, which is one that Roy sings, Congratulations, Heading for the Light, End of the Line, which is a great song. This album, like She's My Baby, Inside Out, New Blue Moon, Wilbury Twist, You Took My Breath Away. So it's not a bad record, but it's just not as good as what Volume 1 was. So I think the Wilburys kind of petered out. They did often talk about doing it again, but Tom kind of wanted to get back to doing the Heartbreakers, and Bob had his touring now, so there kind of wouldn't be time to get everyone together again. So that was kind of it for the Wilburys. But with the success of Full Moon Fever, and Tom was really pleased with how it came out, he decided he would get Jeff in again to do a next record, which turned out to be Into the Great Wide Open in July of 1991. And again, another really, really great album, another one that I really enjoy. Really like the track Learning to Fly, King's Highway, Into the Great Wide Open, Two Gunslingers, All the Wrong Reasons, Too Good to Be True, Out in the Cold, You and I Will Meet Again, Making Some Noise, and Built to Last is a great one as well. And another really, really great album. Definitely one of my favourite Tom Petty albums as well. I really love the production on it as well. And as I said earlier in the video, Jeff and Tom felt he kind of wanted to get the Heartbreakers involved for the recording, but it kind of wasn't an easy experience. They would be told Jeff would record them separately. The way Jeff would do it is he'd have Tom and Mike do their parts first, then Jeff do his parts, and then get maybe the band in to play their parts and add in their bits. And Stan was kind of like, I was sad that I didn't get to do. The attitude they had with Stan was just, get in there, do your shit, get out of here. That's just basically how Stan felt they treated him in some cases. But yeah, still a really great album, and definitely another really great album, as I say. One of my great Tom Petty albums. So they went on tour for Into the Great Wide Open in 1991, and then they recorded another concert video, which was this, called Take the Highway. Again, this is not available on DVD, so I've only got the videotape for this one. Really good concert. This was recorded in Oakland, California, and Reno, Nevada in November of 1991. So 2 nights into the Great Wide Open tour. Setlist is kind of a lot of it's kind of Into the Great Wide Open based, but there's still some stuff from the previous albums as well, like Full Moon Fever as well. There's some 1 or 2 songs from back from the 70s and 80s, and there's some couple of covers on here as well. So yeah, good video release, good concert, definitely a great one. So the Into the Great Wide Open tour went from North America, went into Europe and in the UK as well, and then they took some time off in 1992 to start work on the next record. And Tom had started off as a solo album again, and they started off at Mike's home studio, recording at Mike's home studio. Then they moved up and started working with Rick Rubin, who was a kind of who was a producer who had his own label, American Recordings, and Def Jam, and he worked with Def Jam, and he was kind of like into like hard rock. And he'd loved Tom Petty from the Full Moon Fever album. Even though he was never a huge... He knew of Tom growing up, but was never a huge fan until the Full Moon Fever album, and kind of felt like he wanted to work with Tom. So he started to work with Tom on a solo record. Tom had the Heartbreakers involved this time, and they did their bits as well. But Tom began to audition different drummers, because I think Stan just wasn't really interested in playing. Stan, I don't think, showed to any of the sessions, but only showed up to like early sessions in '92, in the July of '92 and the summer of '92. So he didn't really show up for a lot of sessions. So they had to audition different drummers, like Kenny Aronoff. They had Ringo Starr on a couple of sessions. Who else? Trying to think who else. Those are two that really kind of spring to mind. Then they got in a guy called Steve Ferroni, who was a drummer from Brighton in England, and he had played with the Eric Clapton band. So he played drums on a lot of the sessions, and the sessions kind of went on. Tom was recording from July of '92 into 1993, and during the 1993 sessions he was into it for about a year, and then he was told that he had to pause recording because he owed a greatest hits album to MCA as a part of a contract obligation, and Tom was now on a new label called Warner Brothers. Tom didn't want to really do this greatest hits, which came out in November of 1993, because he felt that the songs belonged on their original albums, but you kind of had to do it for a contractual obligation for MCA, and so that was what we got. And another thing he had to do was kind of release 2 new songs for a greatest hits album, and he kind of felt, well, how am I supposed to write a new song if it's not in the greatest hits? So he started to take a song that he had written during Mary Jane's Last Dance, and tongues all over the place. He did a song that he'd written during the Full Moon Fever area called Mary Jane's Last Dance, and finished it off, and they thought, right, let's get all 5 of us together to record the song. So they got Stan in for these sessions, and they recorded it. And they also recorded a cover of the Thunderclap Newman song Something in the Air, which is a really good version of that. Greatest hits, we're covering up the albums we've covered so far up to this point, and the 2 new songs. So yeah, great representation. It's one that kind of most people will probably have in their collection. If you're a Tom Petty fan or whatever, or you just want to have his hits, that's probably one that most people have. Still a really good one to get, even for those 2 songs. So yeah, probably get that one if you can, if you want to get started on Tom Petty. And then also remember that time, that turned out to be like the last session they had with Stan. Stan kind of just didn't really left without saying goodbye, and he'd moved back to Florida by this point. I remember that time they got the Johnny Depp, who, a Hollywood actor, had this club called the Viper Room, and he asked them to open up his club, and Tom's like, yeah, we'd like to do it. And Stan didn't really say anything, and Tom's like, look, the band's going to do this show, are you going to come or not? He goes, can't do it. And so Tom's attitude to that was, okay, don't worry about it, I'll just get someone else to do the drums. And within 24 hours, Stan turned up. But by this point in time, by 1994, it was obvious that Stan was doing everything he could do just to get fired, just to go as far as he could be pushed. I think they were doing the British School Benefit in October of 1994, and he was talking to another band, and another guy in the band, he said, oh, they're not my main thing. And that was it. I think for Tom, that was the final straw. He just couldn't do it anymore, and so he said to Tony Dimitriadis, the manager, just call Stan and tell him he's out. So Stan was out of the band, and that was really it. And Stan kind of felt like he didn't fit in anymore, and didn't know how to fit in, and taking the ride as far as it would go, and that was why he kind of lost interest. And so they completed the album with Steve Ferroni playing the drums. But remember that time at the time of Into the Great Wide Open and Full Moon Fever, they had gotten another musician, a guy called Scott Thurston, and who was played many instruments, played guitar, keyboards, and a good backing singer as well. So Scott had been with the band for a few years before this point. Then they had a couple of television appearances on Saturday Night Live, and they had they got in Dave Grohl, and Dave Grohl had been the drummer for Nirvana, and Dave sat in for Stan on this appearance. Tom did ask Dave if he would join the band, and Dave's like, oh no, I'd like to do my own thing, and Dave ended up forming the Foo Fighters afterward. But Dave said that experience helped him form the Foo Fighters, and then Tom's solo album came out in 1994, in November of 1994, Wildflowers. One of my favourite Tom Petty albums, another really great album, with the following up from like Into the Great Wide Open and Full Moon Fever. Definitely a great 3-album run, I would say. Title track's great, You Don't Know How It Feels, Time to Move On, You Wreck Me, Only a Broken Heart, Honeybee, Don't Fade on Me, Hard on Me, To Find a Friend, Crawling Back to You, and Wake Up Time. Just what can you say about this album? It's really is a great album. And that's a lot of fans' favourites, and it's one of my favourites too. So yeah, really great record. And they had initially intended this one to be a double album, but I think Warner Brothers Record Company felt that would be too expensive and just wanted it to be a 1-disc set. So it ended up being a 1-disc album, but still really good to have. Still a really great album. One that I definitely recommend, that album. Recommend a lot of these albums, definitely, yeah. And then in between this, when Tom did the Wildflowers tour, he said to Steve, you doing anything next year? And 1995, and Steve's like, no, I'm not got anything planned. And so Tom's like, well, would you like to join the band for the summer of this tour? And Steve's like, yeah, that'd be good. And so from that day on, Steve was in the band. So but then around about the time that they were doing the Wildflowers tour, they started working on another box set, which was another contractual thing that they had to do for MCA, I think, which was this box set, Playback. This has four discs of previously released material, some of which appeared on the albums, and others were like live tracks and B-sides, and discs 5 and 6 were previously unreleased songs from like early Mudcrutch days into 1993, so a good set that this one was. It's got like loads of great ones, like the original version of Louisiana Rain, the demo version of Stop Dragging My Heart Around before it was given to Stevie Nicks. There's the great Mudcrutch tracks like Depot Street, which is the single that they released, an early version of Don't Do Me Like That as well, unreleased songs like Keep Me Alive, Waiting for Tonight, the version of Elvis's Wooden Heart. The track list is just, there's loads. It's loads here. Definitely if you can get this one, this might be a good starting point for your Tom Petty collection. But as I say, it goes up to 1995, but still, definitely recommend that box set if you can get it. Around at this time, Tom was in a bit of a difficult phase himself. His marriage was on the rocks, and it was on. You can hear a lot of the songs on Wildflowers that it was obvious that his marriage was on rocky grounds, and him and his wife had divorced in 1996. Around that time of the divorce, though, Tom was living out in Los Angeles on his own in a house that he called the Chicken Shack. It was a good place for him to kind of create. He said he could create, but the downside to that was that he was all by himself. But then around about this time, he got a call from a film director who was writing the songs for a movie. See, he would write songs for a film, and Tom basically used a bunch of Wildflowers leftovers for that, and it came out as this album, Songs and Music from the Motion Picture She's the One, which came out in August 1996. And these are all like Wildflowers leftovers, but still a really good album. I like Walls, both Circus and Number 3. Grew Up Fast, Climb That Hill, Angel Dream numbers 2 and 4, Hope You Never, Supernatural Radio, California, the instrumental Hope on Board, Hung Up and Overdue. Another really great album. I do really like this album really a lot. I like that design of disc. So really great album. Not a lot is known about it though. It's not really talked about as much, but it's almost kind of like similar to what Paul Simon and Simon & Garfunkel did with The Graduate. And again, Rick Rubin produced this record, like he produced Wildflowers and the Mary Jane's Last Dance song. And so yeah, another really great album. Definitely a great record. Definitely give it another listen, and it's one that might grow on you if you don't like it as much. It's definitely one that grows on you. I remember that time, while they were doing Wildflowers, Rick Rubin had signed on Johnny Cash, who was a country music legend whom Tom had admired, and Johnny's career had been resurrected from Rick. And Tom, I think, had played bass with Johnny on the sessions for Johnny's next album, and then the whole Heartbreakers sort of took part and on Johnny's album, which was Unchained. And during those sessions, Johnny covered Southern Accents, which was a good version. I haven't heard this album, but it should hopefully be a good listen. Probably should have done for the video, but hey ho. But yeah, definitely Tom was an admirer of Johnny, and him and Johnny became friends as well. And for Tom's 50th birthday, Johnny, I think, sent him a card saying, "You're a good man to go down the river with, John." And so yeah, and Mike and Benmont later collaborated some of Johnny's American albums in later years as well, on like Americans 3, 4, 5 and 6. So yeah, quite a lot of those sessions. And in between this, the Heartbreakers and Tom joined Johnny Cash during a concert in Hollywood. So yeah. And then also in 1997, the Heartbreakers did the first of many residencies of different shows at the Fillmore in San Francisco. They played for about a month, and they had a different set each night and had guest appearances from John Lee Hooker, Roger McGuinn, who else? Carl Perkins, I think. A whole bunch of people. And that play went on from January 97 to February 97, so lasted for a month, and it was a really, really good concept of show, I'd say. And then they started to work on the next record, and then it came out in April of 1999, which was this one, Echo. Echo is often referred to as Tom's divorce album, but Tom said in interviews that Wildflowers was when he was kind of getting ready to leave, and Echo's the kind of aftermath of the divorce. It's kind of like moving on from it. It's a really great album. I really love this one. Room at the Top's a great one. Counting on You, Free Girl Now, Lonesome Sundown, Accused of Love, title track, Billy the Kid, I Don't Want to Fight, which was sung by Mike Campbell. The only time in a Heartbreakers album somebody apart from Tom sings. No More and One More Day, One More Night. It's a great one. It's kind of like, you know, Tom's kind of his heart on his sleeve. Just kind of like, you know, and it's understandable. He was going for he had been for a difficult divorce, but he was finding himself again, and he met Dana, who became his wife later, and so he may have been in a good place, but he was kind of writing these songs when he kind of wasn't maybe in a good place, but still a really, really good album. But around about this time, it was becoming obvious that not only was Tom going for a difficult patch, but another one of their members was going through a difficult thing as well, and this time it would be proved like have consequences. Harry Epstein by this point was becoming... He'd been addicted to heroin for some time, but by this point it was really starting to become apparent that he had a problem, and the Heartbreakers were aware of this because he would turn up late for rehearsals, and he would often not look good. He was starting to look a bit thinner and very weak. And there was of course the story when they did the cover shoot for Echo, where Howie had missed his plane and he was going to be on the next plane, and they'd been waiting all day, and Tom was just like, let's do the cover, let's do it. And they did the cover, and I think Howie was later photoshopped in, but it was actually Scott Thurston that was standing here, was actually Scott Thurston. I think there was actually versions where Scott Thurston's there, so I'm not sure if that's the actual version or whether... I'm not too sure. I think maybe still a really, really good album. I do really like it, and the cover kind of matches the kind of, it's black and white, and it's kind of like it matches the concept of the album a bit, I think. So yeah, great album. 1999 Echo. So they went on the Echo tour. They had another residency of shows at the Fillmore in '99, in March of '99, and the tour ended at 1999. And so 2000 was a bit of a kind of gap year. They weren't really doing much, and then this came out, Anthology Through the Years, which is another kind of compilation. It was a sort of a contractual thing they had for MCA, as Tom said in an interview, but this is a really great CD. This is a special one for me because this was kind of my introduction to Tom Petty, and the music of Tom Petty was this CD. This was one that my dad had, and it's one I listened to a lot. This has a lot of great songs. The hits, and even some of the rarities like Straight Into Darkness, Change Your Heart, Rebels, The Best of Everything, So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star, It'll All Work Out, Two Gun Slingers. But there's a new track on here called Surrender. Now, Surrender was a song that Tom had written back in the 1970s. He tried it for the first, I think, 3 albums, but they never got a satisfactory take of it. So it never got it got shelved and forgotten for until this compilation in 2000. And a good, really good song. Really almost kind of Beatlesy, Birdsy kind of style of song they've turned it into. But yeah, really, really great song, Surrender. Really like this one. This is a really, really great CD. I definitely recommend you pick this one up if you can get it. So, definitely get that one. That was kind of my introduction to Tom Petty. And it's a good starting place for if you want to get some of the rarer Tom Petty songs on CD. This is a good starting place. Definitely recommend that one. So 2000, as I say, was a quiet year. They did an appearance at the Bridge School Benefit in the October of 2000, and that was kind of all they did. Then 2001, Tom got remarried. The Heartbreakers went back on tour. But by this point, Howie's problems were getting worse and worse. And the day before they were due to start a tour, he got arrested when Howie and his girlfriend had possessions of heroin in a stolen car, which Tom couldn't understand why that was, because Howie didn't drive and didn't have a driver's license. And Tom and the Heartbreakers all talked to Howie on several occasions about how this has got to stop. You've got to clean yourself out and sort yourself out. And Howie would say, yes, I completely see, I agree, and I'm going to stop and I'm clean up. But, it basically was becoming a problem with the Heartbreakers, and they all tried to help him. And Tom has said in interviews that looking back, we should have been a bit more vocal about it. But they knew it was about for years, but Tom just always used to say, it's Howie's business, whatever he does is his business, and I'm not going to tell him how to live, and as long as he's doing his job right, and he does his job, then, that's all I'm really interested about. So, they then, I think, did send Howie to rehab for a period, but then Howie just went back. I'm not sure why. But then around that time, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which was a big thing for them. And they were inducted in 2002. And when you're inducted, they want all the original members to be there. So they got Stan on board, and they got Ron, and the plan was they were going to play 2 songs. They would do one with Ron and Stan, and the other with Stan and Howie. So they decided to do one of the songs they recorded with Stan and Ron, which was American Girl. So they had the rehearsal with Ron and Stan, and it went really well, and they all had fun doing it, and they just kept playing on. Even though they were just rehearsing one song, they just kept going on with the rehearsal and just kind of jamming and having a lot of fun. Then the next day, Stan hadn't seen Howie for a long time, and when Howie walked into the room, Stan just couldn't believe how thin Howie looked and how shocked he was at his appearance. And it was obvious that when they went to rehearse and play, it was obvious that Howie was not playing too well. They did the induction ceremony, and they played those 2 songs, and people might not have noticed anything was going on, but the Heartbreakers really knew that something was going on. After the induction, they went back to the hotel, and they were all in a good mood, and they were all feeling kind of nostalgic. And I think it was either Stevie Nicks or Tom's wife Dana was like, where's Howie? Let's see Howie. Let's get Howie to come. And Howie did come, and he was in a good mood, and Tom said that he was really friendly, and stayed for a couple of hours. But when he got up to go, Tom knew and had a sinking feeling that Howie was, it wouldn't be long. Howie didn't have long left. So Tom basically just thought, yeah, he's got to, we've got to, if this is maybe the last ditch effort to wake him up. So they told Howie, look, if you get yourself clean and sober, come on back, but we can't see you destroy yourself, and we love you, and we don't want to see you destroy yourself. So that was it. And then they kind of worked on the next record, which was this one, The Last DJ, which came out in October 2002. And Ron Blair had come back on bass by this point. A really good album, but really poor cover. Don't like that front cover photo. It's just the back of Tom's head in black and white. That's a good picture. That would have made a better cover. That's a great picture. But another good album. I do like this one. Really like the title track, Money Became King, Dreamville, Like a Diamond, You and Me, Have Love Will Travel. Really good album. I really do like this one. It's kind of like a concept album where it goes like into the music industry of the current state of the then music industry and the kind of radio side of things. But this got a bit of criticism and controversy, as a lot of radio stations thought it was Tom having an attack on them, and some stations in fact didn't play it. And unsurprisingly, it wasn't greeted with open arms too well, but still did not bad, and it's still a really good album. They were now working with a new producer, a guy called George Dracolius, who they'd known for a number of years. I think George had kind of helped them on the Wildflowers era and the playback box set, so he kind of knew them quite well. So yeah, not a bad album, really good. The Last DJ, which came out in 2002. Tom and Mike did most of the bass, and then I think they recorded it while Howie was still in rehab, and then Ron was on the bass in on 2 of the tracks during the last part of the session. So yeah, Ron came back. They done a summer tour in 2002 where Ron rejoined the band, and it was good to see them back. You know, they could have easily just stopped when Howie was gone, but no, they got Ron back on. But then, of course, sadly, in February 2003, Howie sadly passed away, which was a very, very sad loss. And my kind of view on Howie Epstein, he was very talented. He could play all kinds of instruments, from guitar, bass, mandolin. He played a lot of things. He even produced for John Prine, an album for John Prine, and he was, yeah, a very talented musician and a great, great loss to the music world, in my opinion. But for the Heartbreakers, they did a couple of nights at the Grand Olympic Auditorium, which they recorded and played all the Last DJ. Haven't got that on a DVD yet, but we'll hopefully get it. But even though the Heartbreakers were in shock of Howie's loss, they did soldier on and did some tour dates in 2003 and did a residency at the Vic Theatre in Chicago, where they played a lot of rare tracks, which is a very good concept. They kind of took 2004 off, and then in 2005 they went back on tour and began premiering a few new songs, which would turn into the basis of Tom's next solo album. And then it came out in 2006, in the July of 2006, which was Howie Companion. And another really, really good album. I really quite enjoyed this one. Saving Grace is a great track. Square One's probably my favourite. Down South, Turn This Car Around, Big Weekend. This Old Town's great. Ankle Deep, The Golden Rose. Another really, really great album. I really enjoyed this one. And then Jeff Lynne producing this album again. And Tom hadn't worked with Jeff for a long, long time, so really good that Tom got Jeff on board. And Tom and Mike did all the work on this. Yeah, Tom and Mike and Jeff did all the instruments on here. But a really great album. It's one I really enjoy a lot. So yeah, it was kind of said in the press at the time, it was said to be Tom Petty's last album, apparently. But it didn't turn out to be like that at all. And Tom talked about it in a book called Conversation with Tom Petty. Even before the album was out, he was talking about some new songs he was doing in that book. So yeah. And also 2006 was a big year because it was the 30th anniversary of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So there's only one way you can celebrate a 30th anniversary of a band, and is go out on tour. And they did a big 30th anniversary concert in Gainesville, which was filmed in this DVD. Running Down a Dream documentary on the 3rd disc is the Gainesville 2006 concert. Great concert. You get Stevie Nicks on board on a few songs, and she plays tambourine and does backing vocals as well. So yeah, really good concert, I must say. Good they included this one. And this is the documentary Running Down a Dream, which goes up till Howie Companion in 2006, but still a really, really good one. So they released that in 2007, and then in August of 2007, Tom reunited his old band Mudcrutch, and they recorded in the studio. And then this album came out in 2008, which is just called Mudcrutch. Really great album. I really like this one. Really good, kind of country, rocky. There's a lot of all different kinds of styles of this record. Shady Grove's great. Scary Easy's one of my favourites. 60 on the Road, Orphan of the Stone. This is a good Orphan of the Storm. Sorry, this is a good street. The Wrong Thing to Do, Lover of the Bayou, Top Gun a Girl, House of Stone. Really good album. This really do enjoy it. They got Tom Leedon, Mike Campbell, and Randall Marsh and Ben Tench. They all kind of got together. Here's a picture here. So yeah, good album. I do enjoy this one, and they went on a little tour. So yeah, it was good. And that was something that Tom really did. He did it out of love, really, and he kind of did it to get his old friends back together and just have fun, and that's what they probably did. And then later on in 2009, while Tom was working on a new album, he and Mike went into their vaults and started digging out their live recording archive, and this came out, the Live Anthology, which was released in 2009. This is a great set. All recordings from like 1980 up to 2007, so good 27 years. There's actually a super deluxe version with extra tracks on it, which I don't have because it's very, very expensive, but great performances here. I love the version of Even the Losers, A Thing About You, Breakdown, Angel Dream number 2, Wild One Forever, Louisiana Rain, Dreamville, Crawling Back to You, Square One, Have Love Will Travel, The Wait-In. Yeah, all really good, all really good. There's some rare tracks in here as well, which may have been played on a tour and then never played again, so that's really, really great that they included that. And they included some rare covers. The only cover that's missing is the version of A Little Bit of Soul. Why was that never on it? It's on this, the Pack Up the Plantation live edition, and I really love Tom's cover of that song. But why was it never on it? I'll never know. So, live anthology, definitely recommend it. It was like the first live release since Pack Up the Plantation Live, and in my opinion, it's just as good as Pack Up the Plantation Live, I'd say. Both are really, really good. Great performances on there. Then, within the new decade, the 2010s, came Tom's next album, which came out in June of 2010, which is this one, Mojo. Really, really great album. It's kind of a bluesy vibes, some songs. Really, really great album. Like Jefferson Jericho Blues, First Flash of Freedom, Trip to Pirates Cove, I Should Have Known It, Something Good Coming, one of my favourite Tom Petty songs. Love that song. Kind of like a song of optimism, it's in a sense. It really is a great, great album. And definitely, yeah, one of my... I'm a really great Tom Petty album. I know a lot of fans don't really like this album, but I really do like this one a lot. And great production in it as well. They now had a new producer, a guy called Ryan Uliet, who had been producing, engineering, like a lot of the projects they were doing, and they had recorded. He produced the Mudcrutch album and done the live anthology project, and so that was kind of like, so they got him on board. He did a great job, great job. And in between that, they did the Mojo tour and a few other tours and residencies at Beacon Theatre and Fonda Theatre in 2013 as well. And while Tom was recording their next album, which then came out in 2014, which is this one, Hypnotic Eye. Another really good album. I'm not sure what the cover, I don't know what the cover's all about. It's all kind of, it'll make your eyes go all kind of funny. And the back cover, much the same probably. It's just like a, I don't know, like a kid, a baby sort of, or a kid trying to see what's on the television. But anyway, really good album. I do like this album a lot. Really love the production. American Dream, Plan B, Fault Lines, Red River, Forgotten Man, You Get Me High, which is a leftover that they revisited from the Wildflowers era. They recorded this album over a 3-year period in 2011 to 2014, 2011 to 2014. So yeah, really, really good album. And this would turn out to be Tom's last Heartbreakers record, as we'll touch upon later on. But still, what a great album it turned out to be to go out with. So yeah, great, great album. Hypnotic Eye from 2014. I was aware of this coming up, but didn't get it till much later. But Mojo, I did get, and it was one of my early Tom Petty CDs. Was Mojo. Bought that in like 2012, Mojo. But this one, yeah, good. Didn't get it until a bit later. In between that, Tom kind of took a year off again. Then in 2016, reunited Mudcrutch for another album, which was this one, Mudcrutch 2. And I like them both. I like both Mudcrutch 1 and Mudcrutch 2. Some of the other members got a chance to sing on Mudcrutch 1. Ben Mont and Tom Leedon sang on the first one, and some of the other members get a chance to sing on this one as well. Like Welcome to Hell's a really good one that Tom and Ben Mont do together. I really like I Forgive It All. Trailer, which is a revisit of a song they've done over southern accents. The Other Side of the Mountain's a great kind of country style song. I really like Save Your Water. Hungry No More is a great one. Victim of Circumstance is a good one that Mike Campbell sings. Beautiful World is a good one that Randall Marsh sings as well. So kind of all the other Mudcrutch members get to sing on this one as well. They kind of get a bit more chance maybe than they do on Mudcrutch 1, to say the least. I know there's a couple that, like Ben Mont sings This Is a Good Street on Mudcrutch 1, and Tom Leedon sings with Tom on Shady Grove, and sings another song on here. So yeah, really, really, and I enjoy this album, a really good one. I do like this one quite a bit. So with 2017, it was announced, 2016, at the end of 2016, it was announced that Tom was going to do a 40th anniversary tour for the Heartbreakers, but it had one date in the UK, which was a bit of a disappointment, but anyway. So they then did the tour, but it's since been established that Tom was doing that tour while in a lot of pain with his hip. He had a fractured hip. No one really knows how or why that happened. but management said to Tom, look Tom, you don't have to do this tour, we can always cancel till you're better. But Tom's like, no, I want to do this tour for the fans. And he did it. He did like a 5-month trek around America and Canada for dates, and tour came to an end in September 2017 with 3 dates at the Hollywood Bowl. And about a week later in October, of course, we lost Tom. He had a cardiac arrest and unfortunately he didn't make it. So that was really it for Tom Petty. That was the end of the Tom Petty story. But it's not quite the end, because we've still got a lot of posthumous releases to cover before we kind of sign off, because I know we've gone over a lot in this video, but we're going to still go on anyway. So obviously I can like remember where I was when I heard that Tom had been taken into a hospital for a cardiac arrest. It was on social media. It was a bit of a shock, but part of me kind of hoped he pulled through, and then it was kind of coming apparent, obviously, that wasn't going to be the case. You know, it was a great shame and it was a great loss. And for me, it was like the first significant music loss for me. You know, I mean, I'd known about the passing of Clarence Clemons in 2011, but you know, I didn't really become a Bruce. But I didn't really know much until later. But yeah. Anyway, so with that then came the idea, right, there's going to be some unreleased material probably coming out, and that became the case a year later in September 2018 with this set, American Treasure. Now this was a set I was really anticipating a lot when this came out. Unreleased live performances, outtakes, and a lot of other great songs from like 1976 to 2016, so yeah, all his whole career. A lot of great unreleased stuff like Lost in Your Eyes, which is a Mudcrutch recording. Keep a Little Soul, which is the song they announced for the set, and that's a great song. Alternate versions of songs like Rebels, The Best of Everything, Straight into Darkness, Louisiana Rain. So yeah, just jam-packed with loads of great alternate stuff on here. I love a lot of stuff in here, and definitely a set that means a lot to me. You know, one that I played a lot when it came out. You know, came out my last year at secondary school when I was about 17, so this is 2018. So yeah, great set. And I've done a video on this set where I review all the tracks on this, so if you want to see me do that, you can go back and check that out on the channel. Then a few months after that we get another compilation, The Best of Everything, which came out in March of 2019. And again, similar to American Treasure, I played this one a lot when it came out. This pretty much has all his career, whereas Anthology and the playback kind of focus on the MC8 era. This goes through everything. So this has everything from 1976 to 2016, but excluding the Wilbury stuff. And it even has 2 previously unreleased tracks, which are The Best of Everything alternate version with an extra verse, and For Real, which was an unreleased track from 2000 during the sessions that did the Surrender from the Anthology album. So yeah, that's a great one to get hold of. If you can get hold of this, definitely get it. This is a good starting point for Tom Petty, I would say, but I would still say, you know, the Anthology is a good one to go for. But still, definitely get this one if you can. Best of Everything. That's probably the best one to go for, I would say. Then of course, before Tom had passed away, he'd always talked about going back and sort of revisiting the Wildflowers stuff and putting out the album it may be intended to be, and putting out some unreleased stuff as well from Wildflowers, which we got eventually in October 2020 with this one, Wildflowers and All the Rest. This is a deluxe set of the Wildflowers album, and this has a second disc of the All the Rest, which is the material they were intending, including an unreleased song called Something Good Coming, and Leave Virginia Alone, which he gave to Rod Stewart, and some of the songs that end up on She's the One, home recording demos which are really good, and live recordings from like the tour. I hope to do a video on this on its own where I review it in kind of detail. So yeah, definitely hope you check that out. The home recordings are basically Tom in his home studio playing all the instruments, and the live stuff is stuff from like Wildflowers tour 1995 until the last 40th anniversary tour in 2017. So get a lot on here. This is a great set. Came out during COVID. I love a lot of the home recordings in here, like There Goes Angela, Dream Away, A Feeling of Peace, There's a Break in the Rain. Those are 3 songs that were never previously known. And the version of Wake Up Time's great. It's just him and the piano. That's a great one. And I love the version of Wildflowers as well. So yeah, definitely recommend this one if you can find it. Great set. Then they put a super deluxe set when this came out. Finding Wildflowers. This is the alternate takes of the Wildflowers sessions from 1992 to 1994. Great CD, definitely great CD. Has an unreleased track called You Saw Me Coming. That was completely unreleased, but it has some B-side tracks as well, which is good that they included that in here. So yeah, Really good CD, Finding Wildflowers. These two kind of go together quite well. Then this came out in July of 2021. But this actually came out as a part of the Super Deluxe of Wildflowers, but then got a re-release in the April of 2021 as a standalone release, so I'm quite glad they did that. Then this came out in July. This came out as a Record Store Day album, then it came out as a generic release, Angel Dream. This is kind of the reimagined re-release of the She's the One album, remixed kind of, and rearranged. It even has 4 unreleased tracks, like One of Life's Little Mysteries, a song from the August 1992 Wildflower Sessions. 13 Days, a version of the J.J. Cale song, 105 Degrees, an extended version of Supernatural Radio, and an instrumental called French Disconnection, which is an instrumental version of the Angel Dream song. But yeah, really nice little song here. Good album, good release, and I did get this one at the time. Good release, I would say. It's good to have for the unreleased songs as well as to have like the She's the One remix, and it sounds really good. Sounds really good. And the last release we have to show up to this point is this. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers live at the Fillmore 1997. This of course is a compilation of all the Fillmore residency shows, and a lot of great songs in here, great performances, great rarities like Angel Dream, The Wild One Forever, Heartbreakers Beach Party, which was a B-side, great covers like a version of the Rolling Stones song Time Is On My Side, great version of the Everly Brothers Lucille, I Can't Get No Satisfaction from the Rolling Stones, Knock on Heaven's Door, Bob Dylan. So yeah, you get guest appearances from John Lee Hooker and Roger McGuinn. So it's kind of like a compilation of the last 7 nights of that the residency that they recorded. So yeah, great CD release. That's come out in November of 2022 for the kind of anniversary. So that's it for my Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers video. Hope you enjoyed this video. To sum up the legacy of Tom Petty, he's left behind a great legacy of songs, music. I know I've spent like 46 minutes talking about it, but still in part 2, but still a great legacy, a great trove of music he's left us behind. Definitely. And if you like Tom Petty, have any favourites, like, comment, subscribe. And if you've never heard Tom Petty before, I hope you enjoyed the video. And I know I have went on a bit too long to do it, but you know, still a great one. If you want to kind of learn more about Tom Petty and his life career, check out Petty the Biography by Warren Zanes. But also, if I can get it, just give me a moment. You can check out these 2 books, Running Down a Dream with Tom Petty and Conversation with Tom Petty. These are both great books to check out. And also this documentary, Running Down a Dream, from 2007. If you can get hold of this is definitely get this one. It might, I'm sure it might still be available. It might be not too difficult to get hold of now, but you know, and I had a hard time trying to find this, but I managed to find it. Definitely get this one if you can get it. It's a great DVD. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to do more of these career videos quite soon. Other contenders are Bruce Springsteen, REO Speedwagon, The Who, maybe the Rolling Stones. Those sort of bands I'd like to do. Something like that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next video.